How did the Holocaust change me as a person? It had a tremendous effect on me. Physically, it robbed me of all my loved ones because I was the only one survived. To me, the Nazis, when I thought of them, my hatred was so great, I didn't care if they beat me because they did many times. That hatred turned into determination.
I don't know that I was changed by the Holocaust. I think it formed my personality. And my temperament is probably very strong, independent, worrisome, afraid of separation.
You know, when I was growing up, we knew our parents were different. It wasn't until I got older that I realized my parents were special in a very unique way. My parents were survivors.
My name is Raymond Fiol, Ray for short, and I'm a Holocaust survivor. My parents had come to Paris from Poland. I believe met in Paris. Unfortunately, they did not survive, so I don't have any direct information from them. But this is what my remaining family told me. I found my parents' letters in the Shoah Museum in Paris. They were addressed to the French Jews who were in control in Paris of the Jewish laborers in the camps, asking for help. We have no clothes, we have no food, we're being interned, can you help us? They made a deal. This French family took me in. Turns out that they were French partisans, and the proceeds of their businesses was to supply the French underground. So I was turned over to the Christian family that saved my life. That's when I last saw my parents. I was about 7 years old. I was able to survive, I guess, through hope and determination and learning to be extremely independent. When I met my husband and had a family, nothing was going to deter me from having that.
My name is Stephen Nasser, and I am a Holocaust survivor. At age 13, my family and I, we were taken to an intern camp in Budapest called Budafok. It was a brick factory. From this intern camp, we were taken away, approximately 80 to a cattle car. Sanitary conditions were very bad. And by the time we arrived in Auschwitz-Birkenau, I took my first deep breath of fresh air. It was awful. I had to back into the cattle car and breathe the foul air from there because the air outside was contaminated by ashes flying over. It looked like smog, which was created by the crematorium, and the smell of thousands of people being burnt and cremated. It was awful. My brother's name is pronounced Andris. We were very, very close. Like, I remember when he played soccer ball, when the Nazis came in, and I was so proud of him. He scored the winning goals, and I was full of joy. I was yelling for him, Andris, Andris, you scored. And he was a big hero in that school. they told me they took him to death barrack. I was determined to rescue him. How? I don't care. I collected some food when I went to work the next few days, kept it around my waist, my jacket was tucked into my pants, and finally one Sunday I went to look for my brother, and as I walked through death barracks calling for Nasser, I found him. There were two people in one bunk bed, but when he opened his eyes, I saw those beautiful blue eyes, and I begged the person beside him, so I slid beside my brother. I put my arm underneath his head, and then I said, Andris, I'm here to rescue you. We are going to be rescued. You are not going to be killed. I said, I bought food for you. And I put this piece of food on his chest. And he said, my little brother, look under my blanket. And when I looked under his blanket, there was some dry piece of food. He could not eat anymore. Andris died in my arms.
My name is Esther Toporek Finder, and both of my parents are Holocaust survivors. We use the term second generation, but we're basically children of Holocaust survivors. Both of my parents were born in the same small town, a town called Lask in Poland. They were both 16 and a half when the war started. My father was taken fairly early to the camps. He was in a total of 12 camps, including Auschwitz-Birkenau. And he was liberated actually May 9th, the day after the war was over. My mother was in the Lodz ghetto for a long time, and when they liquidated the Lodz ghetto, she was sent to Birkenau, and then she went to several camps after that. She was liberated in April of '45, so she was liberated a few weeks before my father was. Towards the end of the war, my mother was on a transport with other Jewish women prisoners, and they were put on a cattle car, and there was a train full of prisoners, and the Allies had come and bombed the train. And the car next to my mother's had sustained a direct hit. That hit also blew away one wall of my mother's car. And the women that were in the cattle car with my mother started to run away, but my mother couldn't because her sister was pinned in the debris. So she tried to pull her sister out, and as she was doing that, she saw that one of the walls in the cattle car was falling. So she put up her shoulder to catch the falling wall so it wouldn't fall on her sister. And it left a permanent dent in my mother's arm. When I would think back to her, when I do think back to her, she was just a kind, gentle person. She was tough in a lot of ways. If she wasn't tough, she wouldn't have survived. But she wasn't a mean-spirited person. How could people do that to her? She didn't deserve it. When I think of my dad, who is not in great health right now, he went through so much in his life. And nobody should have to go through what they went through. There are many of us who are working to try and carry forth this legacy, carry the torch of remembrance.
After I came back from France and realized it's time that I, open up, I was put in the position to take over the Holocaust Survivors Group here in Las Vegas. So it was a slow, progression. As I started to speak with people and meeting educators, that I said, well, it's time that I get involved, and we're fortunate enough here to have great speakers who have written books, and it was an incentive for me to say, okay.
I have spoken probably, roughly I'm just saying, 150,000 people. Maybe from the 150,000, about 30,000, if that many, were Jewish people, the rest of them were not. And it's up to these people who I spoke to spread the word.
I'm one of the original founders of Generations of the Shoah International, which is now the world's largest Holocaust survivor family organization in the world. And we are not only a survivor organization, we are the bridge between the survivor community and all the major Holocaust memorials and museums and universities. I've done over 100 interviews for the survivors of the Shoah Visual History Foundation, which was started by Steven Spielberg, and I did even more than that for the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. I've never taken anything from any of the survivors that I've interviewed, except for once. One survivor offered me something. This is a piece of barbed wire from a concentration camp where he was a prisoner. And he had multiple pieces like this, so I didn't feel too, I certainly didn't take his last one. And this was pretty special. And we're working to preserve the testimonies, and we're working to educate the students, and we're working to make sure the commemorations don't lose their integrity. I want other families to have the voices of the survivors for future generations. And as a body of work, it is something I am really very proud of. This body of work is going to transcend generations. And I'm like helping the survivors with a beacon to the future.
After the survivors are gone, I hope that many of us already have filmed our testimonies. And I believe that the second, third generations will do a great job of continuing the work.
I have done what one person could, and it is not going to die. Plus, with the help of second generation, third generation, and all the other people who heard me speak, word of mouth, it goes all over. And I know my brother and the family must be proud of me, because I infected and helped thousands of lives.
My dad had a dream that the Nazis had come back, and he had to organize. Organize is a word that the survivors use. It has a different meaning than what we use it for. But he had to organize our survival. And he felt the burden of protecting his children and grandchildren. And he was so upset that he woke up from this nightmare. And I was heartsick when he said that. And I said, Dad, you can sleep. It's my turn.